Rebel, searching for targets.
What is up, YouTube? I am Reckless, and today I'm bringing you something a little bit different. Today I'm going to be talking about Call of Duty World War II, more specifically the PC version of the game. For those of you who have been around my channel for a while, you'll know that this channel did start out with Call of Duty, mainly Ghosts and Black Ops 2, and it was also on console. Now, I know that most of you probably haven't been around my channel that long, so I feel like I need to talk about a little bit of my history with the franchise before I go into my thoughts on this game specifically. But before I do, I'm not exactly sure what gameplay I'm going to be using. I'll probably use a little bit of the war game mode, but most of the footage will probably be a game I got in Team Deathmatch on Gibraltar, where I go 28-9. I do start out making a lot of mistakes, trying to rush like an idiot, but eventually I do change class to an assault rifle class and try to sneak around and play a little bit smarter, and that's when I really start to do a lot better and start to get some score streaks. So I do hope you enjoy the gameplay in the background. I started playing the franchise during Modern Warfare 2, and it was because my friend had it, and I came over and played it at his house one day, and I immediately got addicted to it. Before that, I hadn't even really played a game since Halo 2, and I didn't even have Xbox Live back then, but Modern Warfare 2 was the game that got me to buy an Xbox 360 and to get Xbox Live and actually to start gaming quite a bit at that point. After Modern Warfare 2, I bought pretty much every game up until Advanced Warfare, but Black Ops 2 was probably my favorite game. It had the best integration of competitive mode, and the esports were really blowing up, and so that game is really what got me into competitive gaming in general. Both playing a competitive game, which was basically just league play at that point, I never joined a team or anything, and actually watching esports on a regular basis. And honestly, looking back on it now, I think league play is what ruined the Call of Duty franchise for me in general. I got so used to the competitive environment where they took out all of the cheap and annoying things in the game, and you actually had to coordinate and play as a team. And when Ghosts came out, they took a huge step backward. Everything I hated about Call of Duty was basically everything Ghosts was. Around that time is actually when I started posting YouTube videos as well. And it really sucks because if you go back and watch any of my Call of Duty videos, which are actually still on this channel for some reason, you'll see that almost every video was complaining about how casual the game was and how all of these little things started to annoy me. Looking back on it now, I really just wanted a competitive game, and I wasn't going to find that in Call of Duty, unfortunately. I felt like I was during Black Ops 2, but after that, the game just got more and more casual and started holding your hand way too much, and all of my videos basically explain that. So if you want more detail on any of that, you can go back and watch some of those videos. So during Ghosts is when I switched to PC and started playing Counter-Strike, because that was the next obvious progression if I wanted a more competitive game. I did play all of the other Call of Duties except for Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered. I was kind of excited for Modern Warfare Remastered because I never got to experience COD 4 in its heyday, and I thought that this might be a good opportunity to do so, but my worst fears were confirmed when I found out that this was just a crappy console port. No server browsers, not a high enough FOV, the weapons didn't scale with the FOV, no dedicated servers, everything about it just screamed console port, which really made me sad because Black Ops 3 I actually picked up on PC and I thought was a pretty good game. It actually had the options that you would expect in a PC game, like an FOV slider with the weapons scaling with the FOV. The menus weren't terrible to navigate through, and even though it did take them a while, they did add mod support and a server browser, which gave the game a lot of legs on PC, something that you can't really say for hardly any other Call of Duty game since COD 4. It's sad because you can tell that Treyarch really wants the game to do well on PC, but unfortunately it's a market that only they care about. Activision, Infinity Ward, Raven, and Sledgehammer have all seemed to abandon this. They simply make a console port because they pretty much have to. They seem to never add any of the options that PC gamers want and basically need when you're playing on a monitor and on PC. Everything is just tailored to the console player, and that is why COD on PC is never successful. So that brings us up to the present, and basically where I want to start with World War II. So if you can't tell by the way I've been talking about Call of Duty in the first part of this video, this review is probably not going to be that positive. Although there are a bunch of things I do like about the game, most of them are going to be focused on what's wrong with it, especially on the PC version. Let's start with the PC options. Fortunately, there is an FOV slider. Unfortunately, it only goes up to 90, which is acceptable, but is not where most PC gamers want it. Black Ops 3 had something like 120, if I remember correctly, and it made the game feel a lot more fluid and looked a lot better on PC when you're sitting that close to the screen. Also, the weapons do not scale with your FOVs, so no matter what you do, the gun is stuck really close to your face and gets in the way. Granted, that is not a huge complaint, at least, like I said, we do have this FOV slider, and a 90-degree FOV is enough to not make me get motion sickness, but it would be nice if the weapon didn't look awkward. Next are the menus. The menus are atrocious to try and get through on PC. You would expect something like being able to click on people's names to go to their Steam profile. Currently, none of that exists in the beta. Granted, it could come out by the time the game comes out, but I really doubt that's going to happen. In fact, you rarely ever can use the mouse for anything in the menus. Most of the time you have to use your keyboard to navigate, which is, I don't even know what the thought was behind that decision. Also in the menu, it took me forever to figure out how to leave the game. For some reason, you have to go under settings and click go back to main menu, and then you can actually quit the game through the main menu. But dude, it seriously took me like a couple of minutes to figure out how to leave the multiplayer lobby. Another thing is, I usually play solo, so I haven't had this experience, but I have heard other people talking about it's extremely difficult to invite people to play with you, especially if they're not on your friends list. Apparently there's no easy way to just click on people's names and invite them to your lobby, which can be frustrating for the people who actually do not like playing solo. As for some of the graphical options, I have to say, for me, they work well. I haven't really messed with them too much, and I only game at 1080, but I do game at 144 Hz, which luckily the game does support a refresh rate of 144, and you can actually get your FPS to go up to 250 for the maximum. So the graphical settings are good enough for me, but I can't speak to people who game above 1080p. Also, they let you use windowed borderless, which thank you for that. For me, I just prefer playing on windowed borderless because I usually only have one monitor set up, and I like to be able to alt-tab, and for some reason I actually get a lot better performance when I play in windowed borderless rather than full screen, so I do appreciate that option being there, as not every game has that option. Speaking of performance, that's the next thing I'll hit on. This game, I didn't really have any problems. I've only had one game freeze and disconnect, and it might have been because the host quit, I'm not exactly sure, but that dropped session was the only one that I've had in all the games I've played so far. As far as dropping frames or laggy gameplay, I haven't experienced that too much, but granted I do have 100 down internet, and also my gaming PC I would say is probably above average. It's nothing too crazy, but as far as gaming rigs go, it's definitely a decent one. So if you don't have a really good gaming PC, I'm not exactly sure how the game will perform, but for me, it seems to be chugging along pretty well. As far as the graphics themselves, I mean, you can tell they're definitely just console graphics. There's nothing spectacular about them from a PC perspective. I mean, it just basically looks like Call of Duty. I do appreciate that while this is a World War II game, they didn't just go with these dark, dry, gray, brown colors, and they actually made the maps pretty colorful. So I think they did hit a good balance of having a World War II game, but also having it not look just gross. I have noticed a few other kind of weird bugs, or at least I assume they're bugs. After the game ends and it tries to go back to the lobby, it kind of freezes for a minute and it doesn't display the scores for very long, and it just seems like there's some kind of hiccup there every time a game ends, but hopefully that's something that can be buffed out by the time the game goes live next month. Now that we're this far into the video, let me talk about some of the gameplay aspects. For me, this game just feels like Call of Duty. There's not really too much you can really say about it. If you're the type of person that enjoys Call of Duty, then you're probably going to like this game. It's basically the casual first-person shooter that made Call of Duty popular so many years ago, and not too much has changed on that. Unfortunately for me, this is actually a negative, as I kind of explained in the intro of the video, which is why I went into all of that. After playing this game, I've learned that I still prefer a game with more substance, like a competitive ranking system and all of that. If this game had that, that would make a world of difference for me. But for right now, you just load into a lobby, shoot a bunch of people, and the game is over. There is no ranking system, so for me, there is not really a huge feeling of accomplishment, or something to strive for, other than just your basic progression, which personally for me isn't enough to keep me wanting to play for a long time. But I do realize that not everyone is like me, and a lot of people do like a casual shooter, so for these people, I think this game is pretty decent. The gunplay and movement feel pretty solid, like they do in almost every Call of Duty game. They did get rid of the advanced movement. While I do enjoy advanced movement games, Call of Duty, I don't think it was a good fit. So boots on the ground being back, I really do appreciate, and I really do like the setting. World War II has always been a fascinating subject to me, so being able to have another game after not having one for so long since World at War, it is nice to have World War II as a setting again. Also, credit where credit is due, it does seem like Sledgehammer Games is trying really hard to make the setting feel genuine. I don't know, there's something about the atmosphere of the game, and even when you're getting introduced to your divisions, the little nuances they have with the people explaining how the divisions work, it actually does put you in the mindset that you're in World War II. So I think they actually did a really good job with the atmosphere of this game, so I do have to give them props for that. Another thing I have to give credit for is the sound design. I don't know if it's because I haven't played Call of Duty in so long, but it seems like the sound effects in this game are really good compared to other Call of Duty games that I've played. The music is actually also really good as well, so again, props to their sound design team. As for some of the things that are different about this game than any other Call of Duty, the create a class system has been replaced by divisions, which is basically a class system, which I haven't really decided if I like it yet or not. But now anytime I try to change one of my classes, I have to wonder if it's good for the division I've picked or if I need to go back and change the division that class is using. But I do enjoy some of the aspects, like some of the perks that you get for choosing that division, like the airborne getting a silencer that can go on any weapon you choose. But basically, isn't that just taking the place of a perk or an attachment? So while it's different, it's basically more of the same. I don't know, I don't have enough experience with it to really speak on it. Those are just my initial thoughts. Another thing that's new is the war game mode, which I actually really like. This, I think, is a pretty good addition to Call of Duty. Instead of just having the one objective that you fight for the entire game, there's actually a progression to this game mode. You have to get one objective to be able to move on to the next one, and the lines keep changing and the map keeps evolving. I actually think this is a breath of fresh air for Call of Duty. You're not just doing the same thing over and over and over again, although it might just feel that way because this is a new game mode. I assume if you do play it long enough, it will start to get stale, but for right now, this is a welcomed addition to the game. As for the game modes that don't have a changing map, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the map design. It seems really chaotic, and I can't tell if it's because of the flank routes or the map size or a combination of everything, but this game does feel very hectic. That was one of my complaints with Ghosts after Black Ops 2, is I got so used to Black Ops 2 having the 3-lane maps where you can control them, and that, in my opinion, makes the game more competitive. The more randomness you add to the games, like flank routes and piles of rubble and holes in the walls, the harder it is to control the map and the more chaotic it feels, and that's something that I am very much not a fan of. If they want this game to be competitively viable, I really hope that some of the unreleased maps go back to that 3-lane style that Black Ops 2 had. The last thing I want to talk about before I get to the conclusion about the game is microtransactions. Obviously, they're not in the beta yet, but they are ready to be rolled out on day one, and they say that they are going to be cosmetic only at release. But anyone who's played any of the recent Call of Duties already knows that this isn't going to stay cosmetic only. They're going to put some BS weapons in the game that you can only get from their supply drops. I am 100% opposed to this, and this is honestly another reason I stopped playing Call of Duty. Putting weapons behind a paywall, and not just behind a paywall, but a random chance of getting the weapon after you pay for unlocking the crate, is unbelievably stupid in my opinion. I'm all for games having some kind of microtransactions. Obviously in Counter-Strike they have them, but they are cosmetic only and they do not affect the gameplay. Charging people money for weapons that affect the gameplay is just a bonehead decision in my opinion, and it will no doubt be in this game. So that's obviously something to keep in mind. Anyway guys, this is already getting kind of long, so I'm going to start my conclusion about the game here. Is this a great game that everyone should pick up? Well, obviously that depends. I do think that this is a good Call of Duty game. So like I said, if you enjoy Call of Duty, I think you should probably pick up this game. If you're on PC, I would probably honestly skip it, unfortunately. I really don't know that I'm going to be purchasing this game when it actually releases. I'm at least going to for sure wait until the game comes out and to see what other people are saying, to see if they've fixed any of the problems that PC has. But as far as the console market goes, this is shaping up to be a pretty fun Call of Duty. I'm also really interested in the campaign because a lot of the advertising that Sledgehammer has done for this game has revolved around the campaign, and honestly, the campaign actually looks pretty good. But is that worth $60? Probably not. The real money is in the replay value, and on PC, I just don't know that it's going to be there. Like every year, there's probably not going to be that many players playing this a few months after the game comes out, and the people who are still playing it are going to be the super good tryhard people that are just going to wreck you, or probably cheaters. Which, I didn't mention this in the beginning of the video, but already in the beta, there are cheaters on the PC version. I'll pop up some footage right now, but like I said, it's only the beta, but apparently there's still an exploit that was left around from Advanced Warfare that people are already able to use hacks in this game. So that's honestly another thing that's affecting my decision of buying this game, if I've only played 30 games and 1 or 2 of them have already had cheaters in them, it's just more proof that Sledgehammer really isn't focusing on the PC market. But if they do actually update their anti-cheat, and they fix some of the problems that I have with the PC version, I actually might consider picking up this game. At the very least, the campaign looks like it might be pretty fun. Not only that, but I have seen some of the zombies footage, and that game mode looks really fun. So, I don't know guys, I'm on the fence about it. Let me know what your decision is down in the comments below, especially if you're a PC player. That being said, I hope you all did enjoy the video. Don't forget to leave me a rating. A like is always appreciated, but if not, as always, that's cool. And this has been Reckless, guys. Take it easy or don't take it at all. Peace.